Welcome to Full Count Productions. Today we're going to be talking about the Mets-Mariners trade proposals and how they will benefit each team and how they will disbenefit, the pros and cons to each trade proposal. Now, we're going to start with the Mariners' proposal to the Mets from a couple days ago. Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz to the Mets for veteran third baseman Todd Frazier. Now, Edwin Diaz, first of all, had an amazing season last year. In his 65 games finished and 73 total games pitched, he compiled an amazing 57 saves, tied for second most all-time in a single season, and compiled 124 touchdowns. And he had a K/9 of 15.2. Amazing. And he came in 8th in Cy Young voting and 18th in MVP voting. At the age of 24, I want to say. You can tell me if I'm wrong. At the age of 24, he had an amazing season. And he has a lot more potential to come out of him. And Robinson Cano, while he's getting older and his contract is definitely horrendous and way too much money, last season, when he returned from his PED suspension, he played 80 games on the Mariners roster with 10 four-baggers and 50 RBI, with a .303 batting average. Not bad if I say so myself. Also with a .471 slugging percentage. So despite him being a veteran, he still hit well. While I'm not saying he has 5 seasons left of his contract. I think he's going to give the Mariners a couple more good years, but his last couple years will be really tough, and if we're ever going to get rid of him, now's the time, while he's still partially sufficient for some teams. Todd Frazier, however, is not a player that if I were Jerry DiPoto, manager of the Mariners, would want to trade for. Last year, no offense to you, Todd Frazier, if you're watching this, he was terrible. In 115 games, he batted a horrendously low .213. But despite this, he did smack 18 homers, had some power, still has the power in the bat, and he did hit 59 RBI. But his 59 RBI in 115 games compared to Cano's 50 RBI in 80 games, rather have Cano. Honestly, Mariners third baseman Kyle Seager, who batted terrible .240 last season, and I would definitely want to get rid of him. If I were the Mets manager, I would definitely just get rid of Todd Frazier just for Kyle Seager. But now I'm trying to analyze why the Mariners would want to make this trade, and I don't know why. I don't know why we would trade a young closer who led the league in saves last year, who has 15 years more potential to potentially come out of him in his career, and we're going to trade him for a veteran who's already played 18 seasons, started when he was like 28, is in his late 30s, and probably has a couple years left. And that's what we call good years. But he batted .213 last year. No, nada. I would not trade for Todd Frazier. It's just not logical. But there's also, and so I just don't know why the Mariners will do this. If I'm the Mets, totally, that's just gonna, but such a lopsided trade for the Mariners. Super lopsided. But there's also another trade proposal. And it might not be quite as unfair, but it's still a terrible idea, which would also benefit the Mets greatly. The Mariners are thinking about trading Robinson Cano, which I think we do need to get rid of his contract, but if we're going to trade him for less than average players, we shouldn't just get rid of him. I want to get rid of him, but he's going to have a couple more good years before he starts sucking. But as I said before, if we wait till he starts sucking, nobody's going to trade for him to pay him $24 million a year to suck for them. But he does he is the veteran. He's an 8-time All-Star in 14 seasons, and he batted .303 last season with 10 four-baggers, and I do believe that the Mets would like to have him. Edwin Diaz, as I said before, is just an ace. He's starting to get kind of Craig Kimbrell type attention, and he's just a massive arm. He just has a lot of power, and his sinking fastball is just, it's dominating the league. It destroyed people last year. But there's another guy we're going to add to this trade proposal. That's right, Mitch Haniger, last year's Mariner All-Star, who came in 11th in MVP voting. He batted .285 with 26 dingers and 93 RBI. Oh, and that's not to exclude his amazing defense at right field and center field last season as well. Mitch Haniger hit, slugged, defended, did everything well. Had excellent base running and had 8 stolen bases. Not bad, with a total of 294 total bases. He had a big year. And we're going to trade Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz, Mitch Haniger, all All-Stars that have been named to the American League All-Star team, to the Mets for, that's right, 2 prospects that haven't thrown a single major league pitch. I understand that the Mariners' pitching is not terrible, but to trade them for a bunch of prospects, disgraceful. I would trade, I would even be I would feel uneasy about this even, but if we were to do any trade like this, the only trade I would possibly be even maybe lenient towards possibly completing a trade is Robinson Cano for 2 contracts, since he is getting older. He's a veteran, and he's gonna, he only has a couple more good years left. But to add Edwin Diaz and Mitch Haniger, 2 young superstars, I'm not buying it. I don't think this is a fair trade, and I think the Mariners would be ripping themselves off on both of these trades. But this brings me into another thing. Now, General Manager Jerry DiPoto has mentioned that he thinks the Mariners need to rebuild. He even said if maybe the Mariners, if they keep sucking the way they are and keep rebuilding, that in maybe 5 or 7 years, they might move somewhere to Iowa. Now, as a passionate Mariners fan, that would make me cry a lot. Moment of silence for the Mariners. Alright, now that we've had a moment of silence for the potential move to Iowa, we will continue. Alright, the Mariners. They are ripping themselves apart. Now, we were close to making the playoffs. Weren't very close, but earlier on, before the All-Star game, we had a lot of potential to make the playoffs. There was no way we were going to get over the Astros, but there was a way we could go ahead of Oakland, and we already had our wild card spot. But the All-Star game ripped us apart, the All-Star break. When we came back for the last couple months, the Mariners we were getting swept by the Padres. The Padres. But the Mariners, there's just a couple things we need to do, and then we could be back in playoff contention. We just need to get a little bit more, starting pitching. Just need to replace Mike Zunino, which we already did and got Malk Smith. And we just need to get rid of Kyle Seager and get a better hitting third baseman. And no, Todd Frazier is not that third baseman. While Kyle Seager does have Gold Glove caliber defense, which won him the 2014 third base Gold Glove for the American League, his batting he bats like .240, And we need to get rid of him. But, yeah. So, Mariners are ripping themselves apart. And this brings me into another topic. Now, as you probably know, we traded Mike Zunino, who was a great slugger for the Mariners, and he had great defense, but his batting average was not up there. But we traded him to Tampa Bay, along with Gilmore Heredia, for Mallex Smith, center fielder, very fast. He tied with 10 triples last season to lead the major leagues in triples. I think he'll be an important asset for the Mariners, but I think the Mariners are ripping themselves apart, and I don't think we're going to make the playoffs next year. We traded James Paxton, and that kind of sealed our fate. Yeah. And before we go, as you probably noticed, I have some autographed items to show you related to the topic. Here's an Edwin Diaz signed baseball. I met him on the 4th of July against the Angels when Mariners were losing, unfortunately, and shouted out to his name, asked for his autograph, and he signed my ball, which is really cool. And then another thing I have is a Mitch Haniger signed baseball card. Got it for $15 at a card show, and picked that up, autograph issue. And this is my 80s style Mariners hat, which I treasure. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and turn on the notifications bell.